Good afternoon, everybody. This is Megan Kelly. I'm the founder of iHeartEDU. I'm here with a couple of very special friends today, Melissa King and Marilyn McAllister. We're really excited to share with you today about HyperDocs and weekly plans, so I'm going to pass it over to them to introduce themselves. While we are going through this conversation today in this presentation, please do not hesitate to drop questions or comments in the comment section on Facebook or in the live chat on YouTube. I will get to those questions as quickly as possible. It will also be where we are sharing lots of handouts and different digital resources for you to take off to use as well. So, Melissa, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa King. I currently teach 3rd grade, and I work in Hesperia Unified School District. And I'm honored to be here today with Marilyns McAllister. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role?
Hi, my name is Marilyns McAllister. I'm a 6th grade teacher down in El Centro, California. I'm at the border of California, Mexico, and Yuma, so I have a very special population that I love. I've been an educator for 27 years, and I know that I've told the girls, like, I'm a technophobe, but, you know, being a 21st century educator, even though we're in 2020, some of us that might be a little bit older, we have to embrace the technology that our students are using. So I've been doing virtual school for 4 weeks now, and I have to tell you, I am loving it. So I'm really glad to be here with all of you today.
You're amazing, Marilyn. Thank you for sharing. It's interesting every time you say and remind us that you're a technophobe. I am. You shared that for everyone out there so that they have that, you know, because there are people who think, you know, that it comes easy for everyone who is able to do technology. Like, it's not. I still have workarounds and it still work. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to share my screen with you in a moment and show you something. But, well, first of all, we're speaking on HyperDocs. And the reason why I know that coined phrase of HyperDocs is because of Lisa Heifel and the HyperDoc girls. And they often present on HyperDocs. So big shout out to them.
Yeah.
You read their book too, right, Marilyn?
Yes. Yeah. I read their book. I took their class probably 6 years ago. And so my HyperDoc journey started from one of their classes. I think I was maybe their 4th or 5th cohort. So yeah.
That's amazing. So this works out even better that you have that experience with them. So I am going to share my screen with their website first. So at hyperdocs.co, you're going to find a picture of these lovely gals who have written this book, and it's a handbook. So you can actually click here and you can purchase this book. And in a moment, I'm going to talk about some of the misconceptions between what a HyperDoc is and isn't. And then today we're going to be leading you on a journey to show you some things that you can do with distance learning, how it might be a little bit different in the classroom and now with the situation of COVID that we're dealing with, what that might look like. And we're going to share lots of freebies with you. At the end, we're even going to kind of show you behind the scenes what it looks like to be able to create a HyperDoc. This website is really amazing because not only will you find these lovely ladies and their book that you could buy, but you can also, on all of these tabs, you can learn about HyperDocs. You can get free resources. So I actually did a search for a HyperDoc right here. And so if you're in, I'm just going to kind of go middle ground because I know there could be some secondary people. I'm 3rd. And so I'm just going to put in, for example, 5th grade. So then it brings up all these lovely HyperDocs that you could click on and use for free because this is their project of Teachers Give Teachers. So not teachers pay teachers. So teachers have actually went on out of the goodness of their heart and given us free resources to use. So one that I did find on here was, actually I want to give a shout out to these people. I don't know them, but it says that these are created by Annie Robinson, Norma Philippi, Lorana Robinson, And so they just were willing to share on this website. So this is a HyperDoc, and common misconceptions are that a HyperDoc is like a doc with a bunch of links on it, but it's definitely not. So what you'll see is the difference between, on my screen, I have a PE choice board. And on this PE choice board, are you seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay, so on this choice board, this is just a doc. I have changed the colors, and it's almost just, it's a choice board. Yes, if you click, it's going to take you to things that you could do to work out your body. But just because it has links, it doesn't make it a HyperDoc. So it's not a lesson. What a HyperDoc does is it brings a lot of experiences kind of off of the page. So oftentimes you'll have an engager. So in our classroom, we want to engage the kiddos with some background knowledge. So they have a video that you can click on, and then you can have a discussion if you were in class, or now on a Google Meet. So just diving into their background knowledge. Then you usually have an explore section. This could be reading articles related to what you're going to be researching. This is oftentimes just getting to know this topic. The explain is usually the core sort of teacher-guided lesson or the lesson experience for the students. It doesn't have to be direct with the teacher. You'll see here, there's clickable things. Apply is the next piece of a HyperDoc. So you see here that apply is a task, that the students are creating something. This is where that inquiry piece might be plugged in as well. Again, there's a clickable link. There's kind of a your task. And by the way, these templates are also on that website. So this is a template that was created with HyperDocs.co. Then sharing. So there's a poster maker link that these ladies used to be able to have them share their work with their peers. Reflect, super important to have our kiddos reflecting. And then extensions are often given. So that way your quickly done or higher thinking students can go back and add and think at a higher level. So you'll notice that there are hyperlinks within this doc, but that does not mean that that makes it a HyperDoc. What makes it the HyperDoc are sort of this guide for lesson that it goes through. Yeah. That's what makes it powerful.
Okay.
Marilyn, do you want to interject with anything before I go?
No, I think that's a really good example. It follows the 5E structure, so it's easy for students to build on lower level thinking, and then it develops into their higher level thinking skills. That's a really good example.
And I just clicked on it, so
yeah, that was a good one.
You can create that one, so it's amazing. There's teachers out there giving.
Yeah.
So what does this look like right now in distance learning? I kind of went with this HyperDoc idea to give my students some guidance during this distance learning. So this is my classroom website, and on my website, I have embedded this HyperDoc. So this is the preview of it. And what it allows me to do is this is what the kids see. I also post this on Google Classroom. And what it does, I'm going to open it in a larger view here. It allows them to get to their work for the different days. It has contact Mrs. King, leave a message, which is actually a flip grid.
Okay.
The daily schedule is on there as well. And I have plugged in videos throughout this. So this is just one Google Slides that I have created with the idea of a HyperDoc. And I'll show you just real fast when I click on this.
Take a good break and go outside if it's nice. If it's not.
So I actually just embedded a video for Monday. So I said, happy Monday. And I just went over today. This is what you're going to do because I'm not there with them. When I click on Monday, you'll see a lot of things that they're doing today. And if you click on here, it's a video again. If you click on here, it's a class podcast. There's that PE choice board. Right here, when you click on this, it's me describing the inquiry project that they're doing for science at home. We've got Daily 5. When you click on those links, it's just embedded in another way that you could create a HyperDoc. And so what it does is, I remember I'm in 3rd grade. So it's a differentiated word list.
List A, oil, boil, coin, foil, coil.
So I have these different word lists depending on their level of spelling. I've got printable things that you can do that are non-tech, a link to my spelling city, and just every slide is another HyperDoc. So it takes the learning off the page. It doesn't mean they have to be sitting in front of a screen all day long. And that's the power of it. So I went from kind of one and organized all these other sort of HyperDocs and choice boards within it. So it makes it very workable for distance learning.
I like that.
Did you want to interject at all?
Yeah.
Before we go over to where to find some of these things? Marilyn?
No, it looks great.
Okay. In a moment, Marilyn's going to be sharing some of her things that she's done. So before we go there, I wanted to show you that this is kingscorner.org. I know I spelled corner incorrectly, but the elementary school teacher in me said I want a K and a K.
Yeah.
So kingscorner.org, if you click right here on remote learning how-tos, there's some things. My blog, if you click right here. And Megan is behind the scenes. She's going to go ahead and share out the link to, I know she shared the link to the HyperDoc Gals website, but there's the bit.ly, and it will take you to this blog post that actually has a whole folder for you. So if you're like, that's awesome, give me something free because I'm in this distance learning thing and I need something to work with, I get you. I've got your back. So here's the folder. And if you click right here, you'll actually get several free templates that I've created for teachers to use. I believe there's 5 different ones. That's going to take away you having to think how to design it and make it cute and just be able to put your things in one place. So with that, I'm going to go to Marilyn and have her share some of what she's been doing with HyperDocs in her classroom right now.
Perfect. Megan's going to be doing my screen sharing for me. So I actually have 3 things that I want to share with you today. I have to tell you, Melissa was, as we started moving over into virtual school, I was really inspired by Melissa. So on the screen now, this is a student sample. So you can see it's down on the bottom, the attribution for Melissa. So Melissa did create the template. And then I actually have my students show their evidence of learning. So let's click on the first slide. So the first slide, you can't see under there, but on mine, it'll have Prodigy or Workout, Close Read. So on mine, instead of the day of the week, my 6th graders, we're a little bit more fluid where these are the things I need you to do this week, and students are choosing how and when they want to do their work. But we have a badge board. So students actually put badges on there. So if we go down to the second slide, so students on their slide deck, I'm really into, what's your evidence? Show me your evidence of learning. So when they do Prodigy, they did a reflection on the Prodigy. The next slide, I think it says Newsella. So you can see there's hyperlinks to the articles and a video. And so on this one, we were working on the growth mindset. So students read an article on the growth mindset, and then they watched a video on the growth mindset. I had a chart for them to do their critical thinking. So they actually typed that right onto the slide. And then the next one, 4. In science, we've been working on a weather unit. So we watched from Mystery Science, we watched a weather video, and then students were directed to create a Google drawing to express 2 different times of the day. So you can see this student, we do a lot with Google Drawing. So I was really impressed with where we've come this year. So 7 months into the year, they're really showing their learning. And then the next slide is actually PE. So here in California, we are mandated to have 100 hours of PE for every 2 weeks. So, exercise is part of my passion. So we have daily workouts. So there's link to workouts. My daughter is a Beachbody coach. So she got me access to some kids workouts. So this is their reflection and their evidence that they're doing their workouts. And then the next slide.
To interject, Marilyn.
Yes.
It's 100 minutes per week, right?
Is it per week or every 2 weeks? 2, 4,
I think 200 weeks per, yeah.
I think it is. I think it's 100 a week because we do about 35 minutes, 3 days a week. Yeah, so 100 for 1 week. Thank you.
You had said hours. I just wanted to clarify.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. So 100 minutes per week. Okay.
We're not that crazy in California, not 100 hours.
Okay. So in my classroom, we have an overarching theme this year of the global goals. So even though we're doing our remote learning, I call it virtual school, we're still keeping up with the essential questions that we're working on with our global goals. So you can see an evidence of learning. And again, on this side, there's a prompt, there's directions. The next one is we do want our students reading. So it's a reading reflection. Just a real quick little reflection, and students are open. It's open-ended. What do you want to talk about? And then the next slide is actually, I call it the badges, our badge board. And again, this was Melissa's idea. I think it was last summer. She introduced me to badging. So Canva is a great website to make badges. So I've made some sample badges, and students, once they're finished with the activities on their very first slide, they just copy and paste their badge and they put it up there. And then the last slide, Tony Vincent, he does shapegrams. And so my students, we've been doing shapegrams all year. So we've been doing that. So I wanted to share this one because it was inspired by Melissa and how I was able to tweak it to meet my needs. So I think as educators, we really need to kind of embrace the idea of learning as much as we can and then taking it back and making it our own. So how can we tweak it to meet the needs of our individual students? So that's how I've kind of modified the inspiration of Melissa.
And the way that we have become much closer is we follow each other on Twitter.
Yeah.
And we've actually been able to meet face-to-face
Yeah.
A summit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But we're connected on Twitter. So as a shout out to Twitter, I know some people are, we already have Instagram and Facebook and TikTok or whatever, but if you can do some PD on Twitter,
Definitely.
That's some of the greatest connections with educators around the world. And Marilyn has wonderful ideas that I love seeing. And so we share ideas all the time. And I love the fact that she's taken and said, I've taken this template and I've done this and it's worked for my classroom. And I get to see firsthand, and she'll tag me, and say, like, look at it. Yeah, and that's just, it's amazing to be able to have those connections and that kids around the world are benefiting from teacher collaboration on a platform like that. So
I agree. I'm going to be honest. I was just getting goosebumps as you were sharing, Melissa, because it is so true. And I tell people, like, you guys are my secret source of inspiration. So we have our physical campuses where we learn and collaborate with each other. But then having that secret source of inspiration for me is really keeping me kind of up to date with my learning. Okay, so there's one more thing I want to, two more things, but the second one, we have a Google folder, and inside my folder, go ahead and we'll click on that one. Inside the folder, what I've created, again, inspired by Melissa, I have to do a huge shout out to Slides Mania. So I don't create a lot of my things from scratch. So Slides Mania is my source for templates. So Paula from Slides Mania, I believe she's in Spain. She creates beautiful, beautiful templates. So I've been able to modify her templates, again, to meet my needs. So in the folder, you're going to see 6 different templates, but they're in pairs of 2. So this one, I think I called this desktop file of student work. So really, that's the evidence of learning. So I'm just going to have Megan go ahead and click through so you can see each one. You can put your directions in either one where they can, where students can show their evidence of learning, any links, resources that you want. I've set it up where I can have a feedback page so I can actually write feedback. I do send work out in Google Classroom, but I wanted an additional feedback just to make it more personal where the feedback can stay right in place with students. So this is the student slide deck for the desktop file, but I actually have a teacher weekly version of the same one. So Megan, let's go back and find, I think it says desktop file weekly plans. I think it's the second one. Schedule, okay. Okay, so this is my class file. So on this one, this is for, I was thinking either for students if they're upper grade or for parents if they're primary. So this one, I have set it up with a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for teachers that feel like you want to have a more, I want you to do this on Monday, I want you to do this on Wednesday. I did link our school website and our district website, so that might be something to consider. You can personalize any of your slide decks with Bitmojis. So let's go to the second slide.
Marilyn, I love the look of that. That looks super clean.
That's what I learned from you girls. Like simple, clean, streamlined is better. So this slide can either be a letter to parents or a letter to students. So you're making that connection, that contact, just right inside your slide deck. And then several of our teachers, they wanted to be able to put the links to the websites that their students go to regularly. So I set that up as well. And then the next slide, third slide. This one, I'm doing Zoom right now. So this is our Zoom schedule. So this could be any sort of scheduling, maybe a regular sort of schedule that you're using with your students or your classes. And then the next one, the fourth slide, this is the suggested daily activity. So again, this slide deck is for more of scheduling if you're going to do a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So these would be suggested activities for a Monday, and then you can write in each of the squares and then insert links to what you would like there. So again, there you have 3 different student slide decks and teacher scheduling that are kind of in a pair. I haven't used them yet, but I do feel like as we move on with remote learning, it's going to be a valuable resource for all of us. So there's one more thing I want to share with you, and it is a HyperDoc that I'm using this week with my students.
I know you said that say again for our audience, you are 6th grade, and are you still in the GATE class? Is that?
Yeah, I have a 6th grade GATE class, yes.
Yes. So then this would be something that would be also maybe beneficial for even the secondary classrooms.
Definitely, yeah.
To students that are 6th grade, but a little bit more at that critical thinking level. And these
Right.
are great. So we've got that like 3rd grade primary view and that kind of secondary-ish view on the call, which is really, really amazing for viewers.
Good. So this is going to be an Avid weekly article. It's called Child Refugee Reunited. And it's a Google Doc.
That again. I'm looking at the other link, and I think that's our folder right here. So let me know.
If I click on mine, I'll click on mine, and then if I get kicked out, I'll just come back.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.
So just as we're pulling things up, just to let our viewers know, we've shared quite a few links. If you have responded to iHeartEDU with your email, you'll be sent an email with the resources as well, and different ones that are coming up, different webinars that are coming up. I am also going to share with you, you had referenced, Marilyn, the badging blog. And it's been some time, and that I talk about how I badged in there in an email format with some upper students. And so I thought that was really clever that you brought that into distance learning, because we right now, some of us are grading, some of us are not, but we're just doing credit, no credit. And the badges really take that excitement up for the kiddos. So I'm going to also share that link to the how-to behind the badging, because you had referenced some.
Yeah, no, the badging, when I implemented the badges right away because I knew my 6th graders, they're going to need something to keep them going. And a lot of my students, all of our students, they're gamers, and so they really like that. So what I'm sharing with you now is we are an Avid elementary school. So Avid is part of what we do. at our particular school site. So I really wanted to honor the curriculum. So instead of going out and trying to find resources outside, I'm trying my best to stick with our adopted curriculum. So Avid Weekly is part of our adopted curriculum. So I'm just going to quickly share this. One of the things I want to remind you, and I know Melissa's already referenced this, that the HyperDoc is really a package. So this is a package for the whole week. And I think one of the things with HyperDocs we really need to be cautious of is not to judge, because there's a lot of things that are going on with the teacher that you don't see in the HyperDoc. So there's a lot of mini lessons that the teacher's doing on the side. So students are toggling back and forth between the HyperDoc, mini lesson, maybe doing things in Google Classroom as well. And I always like to start out with an essential question. So all of my HyperDocs, they start with the essential question. And this one, I do prefer the 5 E's. So here's our engage. The story is about a young girl that was a refugee and a man gave her a bike. And about 24 years later, how they were reunited, and social media did help reunite them. So really it's a story about hope and kindness. So you can see I'm starting off with what is hope, what is kindness, a quick write. One time I experienced kindness was when blank showed me kindness when. So again, when we think about our learners, we do want to scaffold. Some of our students, they might want the sentence frames to help them be successful. Then explore. This is the video of the two individuals being reunited. So this is really that prior knowledge. So they actually have the story before they start reading it. And then in the more, this is where students are going to go actually read the article. And I want to point out, this is where the going back and forth is. So I'm going to preview the text here.
And I love
so here's our
as well, if I could for a minute. You said there's a lot going on that's outside of the HyperDoc. And so when you're doing a HyperDoc in the classroom, I think that was definitely one of the things that teachers came to the realization of was, okay, that's great, but I don't want my kids staring at a screen all day with this doc. And what you said was right on, because the kids they're learning, but the teacher is present. And that's just a process that we're going through. It's kind of like our skeleton lesson plan with a lot of embedded, thought out process. And right now that we're in distance learning, I know you are probably too making a lot of videos since we're not there for that process. We're having a lot of those Google Meet or Zoom calls with them in office hours to lead still.
Okay, so this is the close read. And then I actually collaborated with one of our
range. She kind of jumped off for a minute there. Megan, do you have anything to interject with, or any questions at this point? I was noticing we had some people say hi, and I saw.
One thing I'll share is, while we're waiting, is what I will do is share a blog post that I created that has some HyperDoc templates in it as well. So I'm going to drop that into the chat real quick. Very much similar to what Melissa and Marilyn are saying. There's kind of a brief introduction to what HyperDocs are, but I do have some templates that you can still, that are in slides, that are in Google Forms as well. So on this page, there's only 3 of them, but I have used these ones over and over again. The easiest way to do this is, if you want your own copy, pop into that blog post, hit the click here for your own copy, and then you will be able to create your own copy and add that to your drive. Very similar even with forms, even though it doesn't seem like it's easy to make a form. A copy of it, you can actually just by clicking this button, and that's another way that you can create a HyperDoc as well. So there's a few things to try out there. One thing I would just say as well is, when you're looking at the HyperDoc template and you see that there's all these different steps, remember that you don't have to do all of them every single time, which both ladies have talked about during this session. So you could just do a simple, explore, engage, explore, explain, apply. You could do all 7 parts if you wanted to, but you do not have to do all of the pieces to that. Okay. I'm going to see if I can get Marilyn to pop back in here. Melissa, you want to share something while we're waiting?
Yes. So I'm just going to go ahead and go probably behind the scenes now. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my screen here and share. This is the Badges with Canva and G Suite meshed together post that Megan was putting out there, and it will be shared in the email afterwards. But it does talk about how to use Canva and how to kind of mesh that with G Suite. I thought that was fabulous that Marilyn did that. So I want to take you to just a blank slides. And I'm going to go over some little tips that if you don't know these could be useful. Some teachers that I have taught how to do this have found some of these tricks useful. So I'll try to give you kind of the same ones. So the way to get a new slides and a new doc, if you go docs.new or slides.new, you can actually grab a new one up here in what's called your Omni box. If you type that in there, it will just generate you a new one. So if I were to create sort of that clickable app look that I had showed you in the beginning, a few tips would be, number one, I can highlight everything. If I click and I drag, because I like to start with blank and it always starts me here, unless I go play with my master slides, but I'm going to stay away from that. So if I did that, I have everything highlighted. So I'm just going to delete it. And then when I add my buttons, those are actually just shapes. So if I go in here and I want a button, I usually don't like the squared look. I usually like the circles or kind of the rounded corners. So if I want a button for that app look, or for any HyperDocs, if I wanted this to take me to the engaged slide, I would just add this button here. And you can always change the color. So you can fill your color. You can change your line color. And you can even change your line weight. So I'm a big line weight person. Sometimes I even like to meddle in this style of my lines like that. Someone asked before when I was doing this training, what's the difference between a text box and a shape? Well, they're kind of the same. It's just different shapes of text boxes, to be honest, because I can click inside of this shape now, and I can actually put a word in here. So if I was doing this clickable HyperDoc that looks kind of like this app look, then here I just typed inside of the shape. So I can go and center it, because you know how we have to have it look all cute. Change the fonts, whatever that you'd like to do. Then to change the background, I just go here, and you can search for an image, or you can do a different color. So if you go and you search for an image, you can upload one from your computer. You can do an image search. So if I just type in something like gray background, and I grab one, then it will be there. And then, you know, you're like, oh, only one button, and then it doesn't go anywhere right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually copy, I'm not going to copy and paste this slide, you could, but here's a little trick. If you wanted to just have the same slide again, I'm highlighted on this slide, and I'm going to hit Control or Command D, and that will duplicate the slide. So it will give me another one. And you can even take that button away on that slide if you don't want it. Now on mine, I had different buttons. And so I'm going to highlight this button, and I'm going to hit Command D or Control D again. And it just gives me the same size button, because we like things to be uniform. And then another trick, remember in the beginning, I clicked and I was dragging and highlighting everything at one time. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to hit Command D, and it brings up 2 buttons instead of just one, and they're already aligned. I can do it again even, and I can have 8 buttons. So you can click and drag, and you can continue to add buttons. The slide that I showed you had this word art up here. It also has a video. And so just like in any slide, the way that I had this working as an app is I went to Insert. You can add an audio. You can add a video. If you have like a Screencastify or a video from YouTube that you want to add, you can go there. We have this awesome audio ad, which is what you saw earlier when I was reading my students their word lists.
Mhm.
So I recorded my voice and put that on there. But then there's also this insert word art, which is how I just put my title. So now that you've kind of seen the work around behind, the way that you link this is if you have several slides, and you don't have to do this if you use one of the templates, it's actually done for you, but for future knowledge, if I want this button to go to slide 2, I click here. I'm hitting Command or Control K, K like kangaroo. I can link this to another website, but I can also link it to slide 2.
Ooh, like that.
So when you click on this one, it's going to actually take you to slide 2. So if I want this button to go to slide 3, Control or Command K, slides in the presentation,
Wow.
apply. So now when you're in this present mode and you click on one of these buttons, then it will take you to where you want it to go. So when the kiddos see mine, they're seeing this and they're just clicking and it's taking them to the different dates. And then always put this homepage button. I always put that at the top of every single slide because you need a way to get back to your homepage. So just add a button that says homepage and link it to slide 1. So that way they can navigate. They don't have to be in your slides. They can actually, I have a kinder teacher at my site that did something really amazing. She just did a 1 page and it takes them different places for their assignments. It takes them like Flipgrid or her read alouds or whatever platform that she wants them to go to. So it doesn't have to be a slide. But this is kind of how I think right now there's a lot of stuff out there. And so it's really easy to get bombarded, and it's easy to bombard parents and students.
Mhm.
So keeping it in one place is really important. So using this to take kids places, but being able to have your own sort of look that's organized, and then they click and go places, that's going to help to simplify it. It is a little bit heavy on the creation end, but once it's set up, or once you use one of the templates to set it up, then it does get a little bit simpler for you in the long run. One more thing on the slides before I go to the doc. If you copy and this Omnibox link, I like to use that word Omnibox. Not a lot of people. It's kind of our geekiness coming.
Mhm.
Yeah, but so I'm clicking up here. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it down here so you can see it in the speaker notes. Someone actually messaged me about this week. They said, yours looks like an app. My kids are seeing all these slides. So how do I change that? So you can actually take, and I pasted from the Omnibox and put it here. You can take out all of this all the way to this edit piece, and you can type in preview. So now if I were to go to this in a different tab, see if it likes me or if it's going to go really slow, you'll see like the app looking version that you want.
Mhm.
So I would put that link, because that's a giant link with a preview at the end. I would stick it in Bitly or some sort of shortener before I give it to the kids. And now you'll see this takes me to another slide. And of course, I didn't put my homepage yet. See how important that is? Marilyn, I hear you. You joined us again. I was going to go through how to use the doc HyperDoc style. And then will you share with us again after that?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to now just go into a Google Doc, and the way that the doc that you saw was set up behind the scenes, first of all, many times there's a table. So you can type in a title, but one of the ways to make it look all very neat is to go to Insert, and then you can actually add a table. And so you've noticed on the HyperDoc that I showed you by from the website, from the HyperDoc girls, you saw this sort of table. And all it is you just kind of reformat the table to what you want it. You can put your titles up here on the table. You can highlight and you can dump colors. So on that paint can, we saw that they did like a purple up there. You can change your fonts to make all of this a different color as well. So I'm going to make it white. Sometimes in my docs, I even like to go to file page setup. I do this a lot for organization purposes to color code things in my drive. I go to here and I turn the whole entire page a different color. I'm picking colors because we're so stuck inside on a gloomy day in SoCal. So you can actually make the whole page be a different color. One trick is also you can merge cells. So you can, if you wanted 2 over here, but you just wanted 1 whole box over here, you can highlight and go to format the table, and you can merge those cells. And the only reason why I tend to stay in Google Slides more so than Google Doc, because you can put links on a Google Doc. You can have some text. I put test, but I want text. And you can actually do Command or Control K, and you can insert a link. So say you wanted to go to flipgrid.com, you can insert a hyperlink here as well.
Like that.
But you can't as easily insert things like images if you want to kind of have them crooked and things like that. I know that's, I'm linear sometimes, but then I like the cutesy look. And then also videos, it's just easier to add audio and video to a slides presentation than it would be to a doc. So it really depends on what you're going for. I oftentimes will have the doc layout linked to my daily lessons that are over on something like this.
I like that.
Just kind of behind the scenes, one big thing to make sure of when you share these links, 1, throw them into a shortener. 2, I don't usually give kids editing privileges to my creations unless I want them to type on, but then I will throw it in Google Classroom and give everyone a copy. But make sure your share settings for your district are set to anyone can view if they have the link, because otherwise, when they click on things on that appy version, they're not going to always see them. So even your videos, make sure you always go into your share settings.
You like that?
All right, so let's go back over and see Marilyn.
Okay, so I think what I'll do is I'll take you back to the HyperDoc Girls website, and I'm going to show you some templates. Okay, so I will attempt to screen share. Megan, do you want to do that, or you want me to do that?
You want to be back over on their website?
Okay, so let's go to resources.
Okay, you got it, Melissa?
Yeah.
And go ahead and go down to templates.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the things when we're first getting started with HyperDocs is really using the templates. I have to be honest, I think starting with a really simple basic template might be a good suggestion. Let's go down a little bit more. Okay, so the one with the blue, the green, and the red, that's probably the easiest template to get started with. It's not too overwhelming. There's going to be 3 things for you to think about. When you're creating a HyperDoc, you really want to think about the end in mind. Where do you want students to end up? So if you know you want them to do a writing or a critical thinking or a one-pager, do think about that. So think about the end, and then how are you going to get your students to that point? So I think my big tip is when you're getting started is start with templates that are already made for you. So again, you can see anytime you go to the HyperDoc Girls website, you're going to see tons of people getting templates. I've never been there and someone hasn't been there. So these are great resources. So again, this was the template that I started with. Let's hop out, and I do want to show you the 5 E's template. So you can see on the left, there's a 5 E's over here. So if you really like the engage, explore, explain, elaborate structure, this is a good HyperDoc for you to start with to guide your lesson. So that's a good one to share. So I think using a template is a good place to start. I know collaboration is a little bit hard at this point because we are teaching remotely, but if you can meet up with your teaching partner, do a Zoom or a Hangout or a Skype, whatever you're gonna do, because the critical thinking of getting ideas, there's like a synergy that comes together when you start creating, and Melissa and Megan and I, we've been creating for a long time. So we kind of have go-to formats that we use, but when you're first getting started, the brainstorming does become really, really important. And I think during this time, just give yourself some grace that, you know, everything's not going to be perfect, but through trial and error and, you know, getting your students on board in them implementing and you creating together is probably, I think it's a gift that I'm going to give you, is just give yourself some grace during that time. So I think my share is hyperdocs.co and start with a template that's already made.
Yeah. So we've shared a lot of ideas. I'm going to go back to, might be a little bit difficult to find now. Let me go here. I'm going to go back to show you that you do not have to recreate the wheel, that Marilyn and I are sharing things with you. And so as she said, I've seen her on Twitter with tons of ideas of where to take these. So I just want to direct your attention back to the fact that if you open this folder, even though I showed you kind of the backdoor way, you know, how to create it from behind the scenes, you don't have to start there because that's a lot right now. We're all sailing this ship that we've never sailed before. So here are some templates. If you just click on those, you can actually make your own copies by file copy. These are only the view only ones. And so you can click these and you can make them yours. It will stay Monday, Tuesday. You don't have to do that. Marilyn did not stay with that. She went into making her lessons off of here. She has one that she designed that was strictly for PE as well. So, you know, it depends on you. It depends on your class, your kids, your level of technology that you feel comfortable with. You're doing the best for kids right now. That's the most important thing.
Exactly. I agree.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and kind of see about these live comments and if we can do anything else to help viewers out there. I know Megan has some questions, some comments down.
So we've got a couple different questions, and I'm going to post them and then they'll show up here in a second. So the very first one is, how long will your HyperDocs take for students to complete?
I mean, for me, it really depends on what it is. If you have a passion project, one that can take like 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes it's going the whole year. Oftentimes, the lesson skeleton that we follow is in 3rd grade and somewhat in 4th and 5th too, anywhere between a week to 3 weeks, depending on what we were hitting in the unit. So sort of taking those blocks, and maybe the engage only took 1 day, but the next piece might take 2 days. The apply takes quite a long time.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, because the apply is where they create. Would you agree that it varies?
I'd agree. Yeah, for sure.
And Marilyn, is that kind of similar for you? Yours take several days at a time?
Yeah, usually.
Good. And from the secondary approach, I taught middle school and high school math, and they absolutely would take, even with those older students, several days, depending on what kind of HyperDoc that I built. So if I had built one that only had a few of the key parts to the HyperDocs, maybe it was just explore, explain, apply, it might take a couple days. But if I was looking at doing a full HyperDoc that maybe contained the full 7 pieces to the HyperDoc, it's a very good chance that there were some that would even take a whole week, especially if I built a project-based learning out of that. So just to give the secondary approach, that's very possible that it can take some time.
I would say too, any time, whatever time you think that it's going to take, it's probably going to be double that, because especially when you're first getting started, because we get really inspirational and we want to put this and put that in. So if you think it's going to take you 2 days, it's probably going to take you 4 days. And I think too, during our online learning, going back, I debrief every component. So if they do the engage and the explore one day, we come back the next day, we debrief the engage and explore. So it might be a little deceiving as if students are just working through this on their own. But like I said earlier, the back and forth really does become important. So I guess my tip is be sure to debrief each component with your students.
And this really does allow for that inquiry to happen depending on the lesson. And right now we're talking a lot, especially in our district, and I'm sure all over, what can students create in this time? So this is an easy way to kind of guide them through that. So yeah, I agree with your tips. Thank you, Marilyn.
All right, another question that we have is, if you had to give one advice to somebody about starting with HyperDoc, someone that's never made one before, what would be just the one thing you would tell them?
Start with a template.
Exactly.
I would agree.
That's the tip.
I would agree. All right.
Template, write out your plan and think first your end goal. So starting with a template to get you started, because this is sort of your lesson plan guide for yourself and your students.
Perfect.
Think about your essential questions first and kind of think backwards. How am I going to get them there?
Perfect.
Template.
So since we're in distance learning right now, and that means that there's a lot of parents that are kind of going into uncharted territories themselves and trying to support their students, how do you plan on supporting parents with HyperDocs when they look at this and maybe they haven't seen something like that before? What kind of things are you going to do and put into place to support them as they are supporting their students at home?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm going to be honest here, where I am, these first 4 weeks have been optional, and we have spring break next week. So many of us, we've been teaching online, but it's been optional. When we get back from spring break, it's not going to be optional. And our governor has said learning will continue. So for me, I am planning on having a virtual meeting where I share my expectations with students. So if we're thinking of, making it a little bit bigger, but how to share my expectations and objectives with my students, which would include the expectations for HyperDocs, but I am for myself going to have a parent meeting, almost like an open house, where parents come to a virtual conference with me so I can share my expectations with them.
In the beginning of the year, actually, I give my parents a HyperDoc often for back to school. So when they come in, I ask their students to kind of help to guide them through what a HyperDoc, and I give them like a mini one to explore our room and how our room functions and to explore different things with the G Suite. Now that we're in distance learning, I am looking, retrospect, I'm really glad that I was able to do that with parents. My students are very trained, but I did have a meeting with my parents. And so I know I have some nurses and some essential workers in my classroom. And so families don't look the same right now. I don't expect them to all be live at the same time, but I have these guiding documents for them with my videos. So I did have a parent meeting, and I asked parents to attend, and I got a really good turnout from my classroom. And we were able to have a Q&A, and I was able to share my screen and tell them what this entails.
Thank you so much. Those are really great tips. I think for everybody, this is totally uncharted new territories. And as much as it is for teachers and students, I think it's a huge place for parents to be right now. And it's a very different world for them. So any support that we can provide them, I'm sure they will appreciate. All right, last question. And this is kind of a little bit more general this time, but I think because we're focusing so much on distance learning, it's a good question to ask. What are a couple tips right now that you can share with other teachers? And like I said, this is the last one, to help with distance learning. So you guys are right in the middle of it. Marilyn, you said you've already been in this for 4 weeks. Melissa, this was day 1 and you had prep last week. So what are a couple things that you would give just to end off on kind of a high note to help teachers as either they're already in it or they're about to be in it?
I'll start. I think for me, we have morning meeting every day at 10 o'clock. So my sixth graders, before we even left, we talked about what's our schedule going to look like. And they decided they wanted to sleep in. Okay, great, you guys sleep in. But at 10 o'clock, we meet every morning on a video conference. We start our day. We actually do the flag salute. I'm using Nearpod, so I share the agenda. But I think having just a morning start day with your class, getting together, connecting. I have them do polls on what are you going to work on today. That way I have that push to, get something done. So I think really having, getting your class together in whatever manner at a certain time. I will tell you, parents are very, very appreciative of whatever we're doing. So just the messages, the emails have been coming in. Thank you, Ms. McAllister, in our community. So I think anything that we're doing as teachers, the parents really do appreciate it. And there's a different sort of relationship that's coming over the teacher parent kind of my feeds lately. And I think we're all more vulnerable. So they know they're in a tricky situation. We are as well. So I think really just, it may sound corny, but soften your heart to your parents and your students and even yourself. I think that would be my tip.
I would say, one, give yourself a lot of grace. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Today was a bit of an adventure as well, doing all of that, and give yourself a lot of grace. Give your students grace, but when they don't show up to something, call them right away. I take notes on who was there and who wasn't. And stay simple would be my third thing.
I agree. Yeah.
If you're a G Suite school and you can stay in the G Suite, do so. It's great to use other tools, but I would just limit that and stay as simple as you can. The creation behind it is definitely time consuming. Checking with students is time consuming. We meet on Wednesdays. We have just an SEL day. Bring your pet to class. Bring your family member to class. And those are important to give kids grace of the fact that they just miss us and want to see us in their classmates.
Great.
Just keeping it simple. It doesn't have to be anything grand. I'm known for room transformations and crazy costumes that I show up in, but you don't have to do that right now. The kids just really love and miss you. So give yourself grace, give your students grace, and keep it simple.
I agree.
I love those. I think grace has been the word that keeps coming to my mind throughout this whole process, is to give yourself and your students grace and keep them in the center focus. I think if you can do those two things, you're going to be just okay. I also think another great thing about right now is that it's all new for everybody. So it gives a lot of opportunities to try new things without a lot of fear of failure, because I think we all know that we're all in this together. So have a little fun with it. Try something new. Don't overwhelm yourself, but keep students first. All right, ladies, any last words that you would like to give to our viewers?
Keep doing your awesome.
Yeah.
What you're doing.
All right. Thank you both so much for coming in and sharing your HyperDocs with us. All of those have been linked in the feed. So if you're on Facebook, it is in the comments section. If you are on YouTube, it is in the YouTube chat section. So please feel free to snag those resources. I also dropped their Twitter accounts in there. So if you do have any follow-up questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to them. I'm sure they would be more than happy. I'm kind of volunteering you guys here, but I'm sure they'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. I know as Marilyn uses this hashtag all the time, but hashtag better together is very much true in this situation. So stay well. Thank you guys for joining us and have a great day.